Mexican drug organizations appear to be feeling the heat from vigilante groups who have stepped in to fill the void left by the government and police in the war against the cartels, engaging and often winning intense firefights to protect their villages from the narcos. In today's video, I will be sharing info about vigilantes that turned against cartels. So, stay tuned till the end of the video to enjoy every bit of it. Let's dive right in. The re-emergence of dozens of so-called self-defense groups that rose to prominence under the previous administration has exposed shortcomings in President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador's strategy to bring down record levels of violence. Some 17,614 homicides were registered between January and July, putting the death toll on track to surpass 202 records. Of those, 809 were in Michoacan, 13% more than in the previous year's same period. In early 2014, armed citizen militias in Mexico, known as self-defense squads or autodefensas, exploded, leading to a campaign that has given major blows to the Knights Templar drug gang in Michoacan. The vigilantes have altered the course of Mexico's long-running drug battle. Along with government security forces and cartel gunmen, they have established themselves as a third important force, demonstrating that even powerful cartels can be susceptible. Residents in Michoacan, Guerrero, and migrant populations in the United States have expressed strong support for self-defense squads following years of cartel violence that decimated many Mexican towns and communities. Some saw them as a sign of optimism. On the other hand, others are concerned about developing these vigilantes, noting that many vigilante gunmen have criminal backgrounds. The first major self-defense incident happened on April 15, 2011, when a group of indigenous people in Cheran attacked a bus transporting illegal loggers, armed with guns and linked to the Mexican drug cartel La Familia Michoacana, with rocks and pyrotechnics. The indigenous people took over the village, ejected the police force, and barricaded roads leading to oak groves on a neighboring mountain. The vigilante activities moved to Opopeo, a neighboring town. They formed self-defense organizations. Even though Mexico has recognized Cheran as an autonomous indigenous community, criminals have continued to murder inhabitants in the forest. When La Familia Michoacana fell into infighting and split due to a power vacuum, its former members formed the Knights Templar cartel. Civil society first supported this new criminal organization because they promised to protect them from Los Zetas. Still, they soon began to do the same horrors as La Familia Michoacana and Los Zetas. They began to extort, kidnap, murder, and rape people, resulting in a system of semi-slavery. As a result, on February 24, 2013, Hipolito Mora, Estanislao Beltran, and a group of landowners, including a doctor from Tepalcatepec's community, Jose Manuel Mireles Valverde, and Alberto Gutierrez, took up arms against the Templar cartel and all criminal groups seeking to establish dominance in the area, ushering a new phase in the war against drug trafficking. Because civilian open carry of guns is prohibited in Mexico and military-grade weaponry is prohibited, federal forces could not discern between armed civilian convoys and drug cartel convoys. They began a difficult process of regularizing these militias. President Enrique Peña Nieto's administration has pursued a complex and evolving approach to self-defense squads. When the vigilantes appeared in Tierra Caliente in 2013, the army arrested 51 members for unlawful weapon possession. The vigilante movement defied the detentions and grew and gained popular support, with leaders appearing on top television news shows and opinion polls indicating widespread support. As the number of vigilantes grew, security personnel were wary of detaining more of them. More than 12,000 police and troops descended on Michoacan in January 2014 after vigilantes led a significant push into Nueva Italia and Paracuaro, prompting extended firefights. After conducting a series of meetings with the self-defense squad leaders, the government was able to form an effective partnership with them. Some defense organizations and their members were integrated into a section that reports to the Mexican Army, or Sedena, and registered their weapons. The government gave others new legal weaponry. Others declined to join, citing concerns about disarmament and mistrust of the government for leaving them alone for so long. Authorities are currently dividing the organizations into registered, rurales, and non-registered autodefensas groups, with some of the latter being prosecuted for failing to register their heavy weaponry. This has resulted in armed battle between factions, with both sides claiming that former comrades have deserted them or that some members of the opposing faction have ties to the cartels in an attempt to justify their actions. The emergence of indigenous community police forces in Mexico is intimately tied to the formation of self-defense squads. For generations, Mexico's millions of indigenous people who speak languages like Mixtec and Nahuatl have carried out some self-policing. In 1995, in response to increased demands for indigenous rights during the Zapatista Rebellion, indigenous activists in the Guerrero state founded the Coordinadora Regional de Autoridades Comunitarias, or CRAC, a network of community police forces armed with hunting rifles and shotguns. Many indigenous citizens resorted to the community police as drug gangs wreaked devastation in Guerrero in recent years, and the CRAC has grown to command over 1,500 volunteer police officers in dozens of villages and small towns. The CARC not only detain people but also are tried in the village or regional assemblies and held in the community cells. Inspired by the CARC, some indigenous communities in Michoacan state have also taken arm against criminals. In 2011, a group of indigenous Purepecha people in the Cheran municipality armed themselves to combat illegal logging and Knights Templar cartel violence. Cheran villagers built sandbag barricades to block the town's entrances, invoking their indigenous rights to self-policing once more. These barricades provide an excellent defensive posture against cartel shooters, and vigilantes have built them throughout wide swaths of Michoacan and Guerrero in recent years. In January 2013, thousands of vigilantes in Guerrero gathered in the Costa Chica area to confront cartel kidnappers and extortionists that plague the highlands. Indigenous Mixtec Bruno Placido, a seasoned community police activist, commanded the vigilantes. On the other hand, the vigilantes quickly spread to non-indigenous communities and neighborhoods. As a result, the movement ceased to be solely indigenous, ruled by self-determination laws, and expanded to include the majority of the Spanish-speaking population. The Costa Chica vigilantes carried more powerful weaponry, including AR-15s and Uzis, shotguns, and hunting rifles. They were also the first to use hundreds of vigilantes to storm into communities and overwhelm cartel gunmen. The following month, self-defense groups emerged in Michoacan's tumultuous Tierra Caliente region, employing similar tactics. We are beginning to see this vigilantism activity spread across several states in Mexico. While vigilantes fight cartels in Michoacan and Guerrero, self-defense groups have sprung up in several other states. In Sonora, Arizona's border state, indigenous Yaquis has formed community guards to combat drug manufacturers who drive them off their land to grow marijuana. Also, a group handed out leaflets in Tamaulipas, across the border from Texas, calling itself the Alberto Carrera Torres Brigade, after a local revolutionary, and promising to target the Zetas cartel. Different forms of vigilante groups have also appeared in Veracruz, Tabasco, Jalisco, and Oaxaca. Mexico's vigilante self-defense squads began as a genuine movement to combat cartels, emulating and improving indigenous community police practices. Although the vigilantes blatantly disobeyed the law, they claimed they were obligated to do so because the government failed to protect them. They successfully drove the cartels out of territory because they were able to attack their community's base in a way that the government could not. One of Mexico's most powerful cartels, the Knights Templar, was rooted when vigilantes and security police joined forces. But some of these vigilante groups end up joining or becoming cartels. For instance, Nicolas Sierra Santana, joined by many former autodefensas, created a drug cartel called Los Viagras, which is now known to have ties and rivalry with the Jalisco New Generation cartel. In 2014, the gang established itself as a community self-defense force, Grupos de Autodefensa Comunitaria. Former Michoacan Security Commissioner Alfredo Castillo Cervantes then asked them to help in the capture of Servando Gomez Martinez, El Tuta, the leader of the Los Caballeros Templarios cartel, who was arrested in Morelia in February 2015. When announcing the first attempt to disarm and dissolve the self-defense groups in December 2014, Los Viagras, they took over the municipal presidency of Apatzingan. They were violently evicted by the federal police on January 6, 2015. With a balance of 10 civilians dead and 21 wounded, Los Viagras expanded into the drug trade, first by becoming involved in the production and transportation of methamphetamine, which brought them into a turf dispute with the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, particularly the Tierra Caliente region of Michoacan. But why would some autodefensa turn into cartel groups? It became difficult to maintain a centralized group of leaders as the autodefensas grew in size. Due to the lack of oversight of autodefensas group, former cartel members and police who felt above the law began to join these organizations. One problem that autodefensas groups faced was a lack of resources, specifically guns. Initially, the guns recovered by autodefensas after skirmishes with cartels were sufficient to arm the vigilantes. But as these groups grew in size, this was no longer enough. Many autodefensas groups began selling narcotics to obtain guns to arm themselves. When some autodefensas groups began to sell drugs, a new cartel emerged from the autodefensas. That will be all for today's video. Thanks for staying tuned. Bye.